Hello and welcome to this exploring session, and today we are looking at the three lords and three ladies of London, the pleasant and stately moral thereof, with the great joy and pomp solemnized at the marriages, comically interlaced with much honest mirth for pleasure and recreation, among many moral observations and other important matters of due regard. That's as it was printed in the 1590, dating for the plays around 1588, maybe 89, basically before 1590. It is the sequel to the play The Three Ladies of London. So three ladies have gained three lords. It's like the patriarchy noticed and went around, "Oh no, don't think we can allow that to happen. We'll just adjust that title there." Probably written by playwright Robert Wilkinson. That's it's not on the title page, but it is generally attributed to him. And it is part of the repertoire of the Queen's Men, who we have looked at all of the probable plays and some improbable plays from their repertoire. So this is the last one. We have run out of potential Queen's Men plays to look at. So this is the end of an era for us until we go around and do them all again. So we're not going to worry too much about what happened in the Three Ladies of London here. We're going to work on the assumption that we're all audience members who missed the first part. And it's not listed down as part one or part two. It is a separate play, even though it is a continuation of a franchise, as it were. So it's going to be interesting to see what we get out of it today without referring to that first play too much. But we have this team of readers to work through the first third of the play. So today, reading Will, Fraud and Sorrow is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm a historian and I'm coming to you from COVID Central in Yorkshire.
Reading Wit and Usury is...
Hello, I'm Lynn Freitas. I'm a teacher. I'm coming to you from the northwestern United States.
Reading Pleasure, Penury and Lucre is... Struggling to unmute.
Hello, sorry about that. My name's Emma Kemp. I'm an actor based in London.
Reading Pomp and Conscience is...
My name is Elizabeth Amisu and I'm an author living in Romford.
Reading Policy and Simony today is...
Hi, I'm Alan Scott, based in Suffolk, but neither an actor nor an academic.
Reading London and Simplicity today is...
Hi, I'm Lois Potter and I am an academic living in London.
And reading Wealth, Nemo and Love today is...
Hi, I'm Eleanor Wilkinson. I'm an actor, singer and producer based in Suffolk.
And joining us as Minister Without Portfolio, all the way from across the mighty seas is...
Hi, I'm Eric. It's not that far compared to, the US.
This is true. And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading stage directions and generally moving things forward. As you may have gathered by some of the names, there is a certain allegorical quality to a lot of these characters. They may be representations of things as well as people in their own right, touching on a tradition going back many hundreds of years. So it'll be interesting to see what this play does with that, as well as being full of great joy and pomp and honest mirth. So let's see how much honest mirth there is. And we open with what's down as a preface. I think it's more a prologue, I think, is perhaps we would say. But enter for the preface a lady very richly attired, representing London, having two angels before her and two after her, with bright rapiers in their hands.
Lo, gentles, thus the Lord doth London guard, not for my sake, but for his own delight. For all in vain the sentinels watch and ward, except he keep the city day and night. Now may my foes in vain both spurn and spite. My foes, I mean, that London represents, guarded from heaven by angels. Excellent. This blessing is not my sole benefit. All England is, and so preserved hath been, not by man's strength, his policy and wit, but by a power and providence unseen. Even for the love wherewith God loves our Queen, in whom, for whom, by whom we do possess more grace, more good than London can express. And that hath bred our plenty and our peace, and they do breed the sports you come to see. And joy it is that I enjoy increase. My former fruits were lovely ladies 3. Now of 3 lords to talk is London's glee, whose deeds I wish may to your liking frame, for London bids you welcome to the same.
And we can assume that London exits. It's interesting there, London surrounded by angels. 2 angels before, 2 angels behind. We have touched upon this particular prologue on the podcast. You can actually listen to a recording of this. That should be available now. I hope it is. It may just be in the recording and it actually isn't available. If it is available, there'll be a link in the show notes. Thoughts about this particular opening? Thoughts on the room? Lynn?
It's interesting how this prologue sort of figures London as the center of the known universe. I mean, is that just me?
No change there.
It is, isn't it? Or at least London thinks it's the centre of the universe, I think.
Yeah.
It doesn't make the point of saying that all England is getting the same benefit.
Yeah. Other thoughts? You know, it comes with a lovely stage picture. Helen?
Bearing in mind 1588 was the defeat of the Spanish Armada by storms, sent by God.
Absolutely. We don't
Which
have...
is no distance at all from the writing of this play.
Absolutely. And we may see more on that, but by power and providence unseen. Yes, there does feel like there's a little bit of that in there.
Yes, the Protestant wind, right? That were the storms that dispersed the Armada.
Yes, that's more often ascribed to William III, but I suppose it could be ascribed to this as well.
I didn't realize that was a later phrase, but
no, God blew with his winds and we were saved is what they put on the medal.
Yes, and it's referring back. It does a little name check. You know, my former fruits were lovely ladies 3, but now we got 3 lords. Which it's setting up for the entrance of the lords. Any additional thoughts before we get into some action proper? No, it's a Monday. It's a Monday, and we haven't had much text yet. There's more very detailed stage directions coming up. So, having been prefixed by London, enter the 3 lords and their pages, and everybody comes in 3s in this play. So, of the lords, first there is Policy with his page Wit before him, bearing a shield. The Impress a tortoise. The word Providence Securus. Next, Pomp. Next lord is Pomp with his page Wealth, bearing his shield. The word Glory sans Pier, and the Impress a lily. And last, the lord Pleasure and his page Will. His impress a falcon, the word Portems. Policy is attired in black, Pomp in rich robes, and Pleasure in colours.
Here I advance my shield and hang it up to challenge him who ever dare deny that one of those 3 London ladies rare ought not of right to be matched with Policy, and London Lord, the which I represent.
Pomp provides his challenge in his word. Glory stands clear, claiming the one of them, not by compulsion, but by common right. Yet more than men, my shield is here advanced, for one matchless. A London lady best beseemeth Pomp, a London lord to have.
Pleasure hath soared, as doth his impress show, to look aloof on earthly ladies all. And never could my curious eye discern a dame of worth for London pleasure's love, but one, and she doth shine as silver dove, of self-bred soil, of London is her race, for whom in challenge I my shield advance.
Thus each in honour of his mistress, and in regard of his well-daring mind, hath here emprised the challenge of his right. But lordships both and brethren bred and sworn, a caution must be had in this conceit, that all our thoughts aspire not to one heaven, nor all our ships do sail for one self-haven. I mean that all our suits and services we tend and tender to one only dame, all choosing one, refusing t'other two.
Great mislike amongst us that might breed.
I seek but one, and her unto myself.
One I wish stands partner of my love.
It stands with honour to be sole or none.
Lovest thou pleasure?
Hark ye.
And whispers in his ear.
Hush, ye lie.
If my master were a soldier, that word would have the stab.
Well, Will, still you'll be a saucy scab.
Why, pleasure, hath Pomp chosen Lucre's love?
Why, Pomp, but because pleasure honours Lucre most.
And policy may Lady Lucre gain before you both. But let us not contend, for Nemo doth the ladies prisoners keep, though they were slandered late with liberty, and marriage to 3 far-born foreigners. Then first it fits we practice their release, and see them, and by sight our liking please. For yet we love, as gossips tell their tales, by hearsay, fame, not favour, hath us yet inflamed.
Your policy with reason hath discussed, pleasure, consent, and so our love shall hold.
Ye never found that London's pleasure erred from reason, or from pomp and policy.
Come on, sir boy, attend you well your charge. Wait in this place to watch and ward this shield. If any man in honour of his love, so hardy he with stroke of sword to attaint this shield, and challenge him that hereby challengeth, say for thy lord, as should a trusty page, that policy doth dare him to perform a hardier task than common challengers, if he demand what policy may be, a lord of London say, one of the 3.
You, sir, boy, for Pomp perform the like, bid him that dare his impress batter once, be well advised he be no beggar's brat, nor base of courage, nor of bad conceit to match himself with such magnificence, as fits Lord Pomp of London for his love. Call, if he come that can encounter me, for move me not for each envious sword.
Will, be not wanton, nor of wayward mood. Wait as do these, use faith and diligence. And mark him well that dare disdain this shield, which London's lord, that pleasure hath to name, hath here advanced in honour of his dame. I bid thee mark him well, whate'er he may be, that London's pleasure doth in malice scorn, for he's a rascal or a stranger born. Good boy, mark well his gesture and his look, his eye, his gait, his weapon and attire, and dog him to his lodging or his den, for I will make him scum and scorn of men. No better boy than Will, when Will is pleased. Be pleased, my boy, and so be my good will.
And so, good boys, farewell. Look to your charge. Watch well, good wit, who scorneth London's policy. Be wary, wit, for thou canst well discern.
Wealth, watch for Pomp, for thou canst well defend.
Will can do something too, when pleaseth him.
And exit the three lords, leaving the three servants, all similarly with the alliterative names Wit, Will, and Wealth, behind.
Will is a good boy, where better is none.
Nay, Wit were the best boy if Will were gone.
Nay, Wealth is the best boy, sirs, and let that alone.
Iwis, he says true. He says true, Will. This Wealth's a gay lad.
I care not for him, curmudgeonly swad.
Well, miss me a while, and you'll go near to be sad.
Will, ye are willful, if of him you be not glad.
Nay, Wit, if thou want him, thou'lt go near to be mad.
To keep us still quiet, I would other talk we add.
I hope we'll not fall out, being none but three.
If Wealth were away, Wit and Will would agree.
Nay, Wit and Will are at strife, when there's nobody but me.
Let pass, and of our shield, sir, let's make a little glee. Will, what gives thy master here? A buzzard or a kite?
Wit, you show yourself a gentleman by guessing so right. A buzzard, thou buzzard! Wit has no more skill to take a falcon for a buzzard.
Oh, be quiet, good Will. It was but for sport, for I know the bird else.
Thou mighty see it was no buzzard man, by the bells.
What's the reason of this falcon, I pray thee, Will, show.
Thou know'st that a falcon soars high and stoops low. So doth pleasure.
But what's the word?
Portemps, for time.
A very pretty one, I would it were in rhyme.
In rhyme, Wit? Why so?
Because it wants reason.
Look for my fist, Wit, if ye rap out such treason.
Treason to what, boy?
To my master's bird.
Now, Will, my thumb wags. It was but to his word.
'Tis a pleasant gentleman, this young master Wit. Your master hath something too, I pray ye. What is it?
Look, Will, and guess.
'Tis a toad in a shell.
I had as life ye had set a frog in a well.
Is it not a great butterfly, Will, canst thou tell?
What is it in sadness?
A tortoise, my boy, whose shell is so hard that a loaden cart may go over and not break it. And so she is safe within, and wheresoever she goes, she bears it on her back, needing neither other succor nor shelter but her shell. The word underneath her is providens securus. The provident is safe, like the tortoise armed with his own defense and defended with his own armor, in shape somewhat round, signifying compass, wherein always the provident foresee to keep themselves within their own compass, my boy.
Wittily spoken. Now Wealth's master hath got a daffodilly.
If Will had not been wileful now, he might have said a lily, whose glory is without comparison and beauty matchless. For Solomon, the most sumptuous king that ever was never comparable in glory with the lily. Neither is there any city matchable with the pomp of London. Mistake me not, good boys, that this pomp tends to pride. Yet London hath enough, but my Lord Pomp doth rightly represent the stately magnificence and sumptuous estate, without pride or vainglory to London accommodate, and therefore the word is well applied to the empress, Glory sans peer, for that the lily is neither proud of the beauty nor vainglorious of the pomp. No more is London, but if it be joyful or anything, it is of the grace and plenty, both flowing from two such fountains as becomes not us to name. Now, therefore, my good boys, know that my master is rather magnificent than pomp in bad sense, rather pomp than pride in the best sense.
Well, and my lord is not pleasure sprung of voluptuousness, but of such honourable and kind conceit as heaven and humanity well brooks and allows. Pleasure pleasing, not pernicious.
Who would have thought that Will had been so philosophous? But what means the word pourtant in the shield for time?
Wit, shall I call thee fool? The best pleasure of all lasts but a time. For of all pleasures the most pleasing to sight, methinks there is none to the falcon's high flight. Yet disease ends it, the breach of a wing, nay, the breach of a feather spoils that sweet thing.
And so my master hath the vantage, will ye or no? Pomp and pleasure may be ill.
May not policy be bad?
Wit well overtaken by Will, that crafty lad.
A crafty goose. The gander gives him health. Bad policies seldom found in so Christian a commonwealth as London is. Let me start over. A crafty goose, the gander gives him wealth. Bad policies seldom found in so Christian a commonwealth as London is, I trust, where my master is lord.
And ours to so too?
Well, let us accord, for wit's a good thing, yet may be ill applied.
And so may wealth, be it employed in pride, and will worst of all when it disdains a guide.
A jackanapes hath wit.
And so hath will.
But he never hath wealth. Now ye both are still.
Yes, he wears a chain.
Well spoke, and like a bear would.
If ye be nonplussed, let the matter fall.
Wit, dost thou see, thus goes wealth away with all.
Let's reason no further, for we shall have glee. Here's a challenger to our shields. Step aside, we.
And we'll just pause there for a moment. It's a long scene. It's sort of action is flowing into each other. So we've had two units of action. We had the three lords coming on with their shields, hanging their shields up to for all comers to see. And then we get this set-piece verbal fencing match by the servants as to your master's shield's not very good, but mine's much better. What's that supposed to be? It's a toad in a shell. It's a frog in a well. No, it's a sodding tortoise. And yeah, it's tricksy stuff because it needs to move fast, but it's rhyming and it's doing all sorts of. I think verbal fencing is really the way to describe it, because it's just constant parrying and thrusting and stuff going back and forth, and it's not like they're doing big jokes. It's just verbal plays, some of which is funny, some of which is sort of the meaning has possibly lost a bit. Yeah, so there's all sorts going on here. Thoughts from the room, Alan?
I must admit, you said this was the Queensmen play.
Mm.
That sequence with the three lads struck me as it could be almost straight out of some of the children's companies.
Mm.
You know, you could just see that as three 13, 14-year-olds having an awful lot of fun, taking the mick out of each other.
Mm.
You know, it's three spotty Herberts, isn't it?
Well, it's feeding off that older morality tradition as well, which is often has a connection with youth-based theatre. So that's an element of it as well. Yeah, maybe it had a different auspices beforehand. I haven't looked too much into it. The Queensmen certainly did inherit plays occasionally, so maybe that there's a clue there. Other thoughts about the scene? How do we find the knight? How do we find the knight? The three lords at the beginning. They're them and their shields. Reactions to the three knights. Again, lots of visual stuff going on there. Helen.
Well, it's fairly standard tournament stuff, quarterly tournament stuff. It was fairly common at this time. The various the people who had the money for the jousting armor, they set themselves up, they call themselves names, they appointed themselves champions of various ladies, and they jousted. I mean, there's nothing unusual about this.
Well, I do like the fact they go, guys, should we make sure that we're not after the same person, because that would be awful.
Yeah.
Can we all make sure we choose a different person? Because it's Filofax is out. Just make sure everyone's got the right numbers. It's I like. I say I like that. It's not like anyone's asking the ladies what they think at this particular stage. Ladies, of course, are imprisoned by presumably Judge Nemo. The last play we had 2 Nemos available, but it was the Judge Nemo at the end had them imprisoned for their wicked ways. So that gets a little bit of a plot name check thrown in. But I think for an incoming audience, you don't need to know any of that particularly. There are 3 chaps, they're after 3 ladies. They have some cool shields and some servants that like talking about the shields. I mean, the servant stuff, I don't think it advances anything. It just seems to be for fun. It's a little set piece thing. I think Alan's right. It is very youth company-ish. Lynn, then I think I saw Lois.
One thing this does accomplish is that it introduces the idea that these 3 lords are kind of ambiguous, ambivalent characters. Policy can be good, which kind of implies it can be not so good. And it's not the bad kind of pomp, it's the good kind of pomp. So we're hinting that these are somewhat problematic figures. They can be good. Yeah, they're the good kind of pomp.
Lois.
Yeah, and in a way that's sort of taken up by the boys, because they also seem to be showing that you can interpret those shields in a rather idiotic way, or find some sort of profound meaning in them. And I think that they are also, as you say, sort of playing a game with each other, and somebody seems to be keeping score. I mean, they will say, yeah, you scored that point, you beat him, this kind of thing.
And we've done the various wit and science or wisdom and or the various plays that have very similar titles that completely bamboozle me, which had characters like wit and will. So I'm wondering if that's a deliberate callback to plays that aren't that far in the distant past. Actually, the last iteration of that's probably only about 10 years earlier. Helen.
I must say, if I was doing this, if it were possible, rather than just having them talking, I would have them playing some sort of game with a ball, maybe bouncing it between each other. Because that speed not only speeds things up, it's what it's about.
Well, I think they've got shields, so I'm wondering whether there's some sword action or play sword fighting could be going on, or that competitive element that I think you're right. This could actually be quite a physical sequence. It doesn't just have to be wordplay. Alan.
Yeah, but the only thing the lads have left out is my boss is bigger than your boss. It's that sort of vibe, isn't it? Be great fun with a youth theatre company, I think.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot going for that. There, I say just a bit of life, and just a bit of world building a bit as well. I mean, it's again, the scene doesn't it's not necessarily advancing the plot. We know there are shields, we know these are the servants to these masters, but they're there for a reason, and that's to see if any challengers turn up. And we have the entrance now of Simplicity. Any additional thoughts from anyone else in the room want to leap in? Anyone finding it particularly difficult or particularly easy text to read? Anyone struggling?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. I particularly like the thing about wearing a chain like a bear would. I just that creates a lovely image. Okay, we'll move forward then. Enter Simplicity in bare black like a poor citizen.
He will eat them, I think, for he gapes very wide.
Say nothing to him, and ye shall see the fool go by.
Sirrah, gape not so wide for fear of a fly.
Fly? Flam flirt? Why, can a fly do hurt?
Yea, have you not heard that a fly hath her spleen, and the ant her gall?
Ah, my uncle hath so, I ween, for it's an angry old fellow when his gall runs over. Children, good day. Oh, children, good day. Whose pretty lads are you three?
3, are you sure?
Ah, I'll not swear till I have told you. 1, 2, 3.
I beshrew thee.
Me, boy? Why, I'm beshrewed already, for I am married.
But then thou hast a wife.
Yes, I would thou hadst her, if thou couldst stay her tongue.
I, thy wife, man? Why, I'm too young.
And I am too old. But in good earnest, good boys, be not angry that I call you boys, for you're no men yet, you have no beards, and yet I have seen boys angry for being called boys. Forsooth, they would be called youths. Well, yet a boy is a boy, and a youth is a youth. Well, if you be not ashamed of the boy, good boys, whose boys are ye?
No whit ashamed, sir, of that we are, nor ashamed at all of whom we serve. For boys we be, and as we be, we serve the 3 lords of London, to wit, pomp, and pleasure. No, to wit, policy, pomp, and pleasure.
Ah, a pretty spoken child, and a pretty wit.
Wit's his name indeed. I one of his godfathers that he hit it so right.
Oh, it's more than I know. Oh, then, is thy name Wit, boy? Now, of mine honesty, welcome, for I have wanted thee a great while.
Welcome, sir. How so? Why do you entertain me so kindly? I cannot dwell with you, for I have a master already.
So have I too, but she learns me little wit. My wife, I mean. Well, all this while I stand here, my wares are not abroad, and so I may lose both my customers and market.
Wares, sir? Have ye wares? What wares do ye sell?
Oh, truly, child, I sell ballads. Soft, whose wares are these that are up already? I paid rent for my standing, and other folks' wares should be placed afore mine? This is wise indeed.
Oh, the fineness of the wares, man, deserves to have good place.
They are fine indeed. Who sells them, can you tell? Is he free?
Our masters be. We wait on this ware, and yet are no chapmen.
Chapmen? No, that's true, for you are no men. Neither chapmen, nor chopmen, nor chipmen, nor shipmen. But if you be chappers, choppers or chippers, you are but chap boys, and chap boys ye are double.
Double? Oh, who is it?
You.
Double, how is it? Teach me that, and you will make me laugh a little.
And me a little.
And me a little.
Then your 3 little laughs will make one great laugh.
True, for if we 3 fools were 1 fool, that were a great fool. But how are we double chap boys?
Because ye have 2 chaps, an upper chap and a nether chap. You said you would laugh but a little, but you laugh a great deal. Why do you laugh so much?
Because your wit was so great in expounding your meaning.
You may see it as a good thing to have wit.
I thank you, sir.
And what say you to wealth?
Wealth? Mary, wealth is better.
I thank you, sir.
And how say you to will?
Indeed, goodwill is a great matter.
Yea, between a maid and a bachelor.
Why, you're not in love, boy.
Yes, but I am, and in charity too.
Charity. Alas, poor child, thou in charity. Now must I laugh.
You laugh a great while, and you laugh very loud.
Then I owe you nothing for laughing, and you hear me the better.
But now laugh not we.
No, you may be maddle-coddle. Well, here's 3 passing fine lads, if a man were able to keep them all. Let me see. Wealth. Oh, that's a sweet lad. Then wit. Oh, that's a fine lad. Will. Oh, that's a pretty lad. Will, wit, and wealth. God lend ye health. I would I could guile their masters, or 2 of them. If I had fraud here that served Lady Lucre, he would teach me to tice one of them from his master. Which of them now, if a man should steal one? Will? Nay, I care not for will, except he be good will. Wit? A pretty child, but a man cannot live by wit. Wealth? Yea, marry, sir, I would I could win that wealth. For then I need neither will nor wit, nor I need sell no ballads, but live like a mouse in a mill, and have another to grind my meal for me. I'll have a fling at one of them anon.
Do you not forget yourself, Gaffer?
Have you not wills to sell, Gaffer?
When do you show, Gaffer?
Well remembered, pretty lad. Ye may see children can teach old folks. I am an unthrift indeed. Well, my wares shall out now. But sirs, how sell you your wares? How many of these for a groat?
Oh, our wares are not to be sold.
Not for silver nor gold? Why hang they then in the open market?
To be seen, not bought.
Then they are like ripe plums upon a rich man's tree, that set men's teeth a-watering when they are not to be bought. But what call you these things?
Scutcheons.
Cushions. Alas, it were pity to sit on such fine cushions. But come, my boys, if you'll buy any of my wares, here's my stall, and I'll open and show straight.
What dainty fine ballad have you now to be sold?
Marry, child, I have Chipping Norton, a mile from Chapel of the Heath, a lamentable ballad of burning the Pope's dog, the sweet ballad of the Lincolnshire bagpipes, and Peggy and Willie. But now he is dead and gone, mine own sweet Willie is laid in his grave, la 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 la, derry derry down, da 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 do.
It is a doleful discourse, and sung dolefully.
You cannot mend it, can you?
What will you lay on that? For I myself there lay 6 groats to 6 of your bald ballads, that you yourself shall say I sing better than you.
What a brag boy is this to comparison with a man. But boy, I will not lay 6 ballads to 6 groats, but I will lay 6 ballads to 6 jerks at your buttocks, that you shall not sing so well as I.
That shall I not? No. Possible you will not let me sing.
I not let you? Is that spoken like wit? It is spoken like a woodcock. How can I stay thee if thou wilt sing out thy throat?
Well then, to our bargain, 6 ballads to 6 stripes, and who shall keep stakes?
Neither of your companions. For that's ask my fellow if I be a thief.
Will you keep the stakes yourself?
Best of all, for I mean plainly, and will pay if I lose. Here's my 6 ballads. They be ready. Now, how shall I come by your 6 stripes, boy?
Down with your breeches, I'll fetch a rod and deliver them straight.
Nay then, I care not if thou keep stakes.
You speak too late, Gaffer, having challenged preeminence.
Then let's lay no wager, but sing for good fellowship.
Agreed. Who shall begin?
Oh, boy, who is the elder? Hast thou not heard? Give flounders to thy elder?
You mistake the fish, trust me. I am sure 'tis give place. But begin with the good grace.
And in a moment we have some singing. It's probably a relief to us all that they decide not to hold the wager, as they were about to be getting breeches around their ankles. So, yeah. 6 ballads to 6 jerks at your buttocks, after Simplicity has gone, which of the pretty boys would I like to take home with me? I know that's a horribly modern conception, and That's horribly unfair, and that's probably not what's going on there. But yeah, interesting things going on in that scene. Again, it's a lot of verbal fencing, a lot of wit. You have two chaps, an upper chap and another chap. I mean, there's still plenty of room for that kind of humour is in there, but not necessarily as much. Yeah, so we've definitely got. I mean, again, it's going back to that boys' company morality thing of let's have the beautiful singing by the boys and led by the adult voice there. So yeah, it really is a callback here to all sorts of stuff in the past. In fact, we're going to have another callback in a minute to something else. Yeah, thoughts in the room. Got some ballads selling as a conceit here. All sorts of interesting business. Yeah, thoughts in the room. Who wants to leap in? Helen.
I get the impression that they've put their shields up where he was intending to hang his ballads. So he's paid the rent for that particular place and they've usurped it. Is that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've stolen his pitch. Yes, because their
masters have.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And that would explain why he's talks them at all.
Are we suggesting that Wilson is playing simplicity?
I would think.
Possibly. I don't know. I don't think he originated the part. There's a note on that in the to do with the earlier production, but he may have. I wouldn't be surprised if he wrote a part for himself.
Well, he was a clown, wasn't he?
Yeah, so it would make sense. We have a question about clowns in a moment, so maybe we'll address that in at the end of the scene, because the scene will end at some point. It will, or at least largely will end.
I love that pun on place and flounder.
Yes, a genuine joke.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. I think that's sort of why we're a little stumped with this, because it's all verbal fencing, but nothing's really happened. Mm-hmm. You know, we've had these shields have been brought on, and then the lads have mucked about a bit, and then Simplicity's come on, and they've sort of jarred at each other a bit, and they've challenged each other. But nothing's really happening. It's just very light and frothy, and it's quite fun. But there's also a little bit of me going, am I keeping up with this? No, I am. Nothing's happened. Emma, how's it reading for you? And acting for you. I mean, how are you finding the text so far?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's almost kind of musical, the way that the language is so. There's sections where it's very alliterative and rhythmic. And that's always quite fun to read. If you can get your tongue around it, it's a bit of a tongue twister, some of it. And also you've got the nice contrast between the lords with their verse and then the three lads with their prose and their banter. Trying to kind of keep up the ball, like either physically or non-physically, because they kind of take a word from the previous line that the previous person said, take that and run with it and turn it into something else, and it's got that kind of rolling, like don't drop the ball kind of pace, which is quite fun to follow.
Yes, that thing that you get in improvisation, where you just if you don't know what to say next, you just repeat what the last person said until you can think of something you can do with it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously it might be a line learning technique as well. If the actors had to learn it quite fast, their cue is in their previous line. I know that's a technique that was often used in the Tudor plays.
Absolutely. Are the thoughts in the room? It's very light so far. Nothing's nothing leaping out at me as too problematic, which is nice. Eric.
Simplicity's wit has not really improved since like the previous one has it. Except he's married now somehow.
It's the way he tells it, you know. I think you've got to take it as read that it's the clown has to make it.
Yeah, it's somebody much better than me doing this, remember? Yeah.
It's the problem. Always the problem with comedy is the idea of the joke usually survives, but the actual patter is always idiomatic of your time, and so the patter does tend to struggle to translate over time. But occasionally fish jokes work, which is always nice to hear. Any other thoughts before we move on?
Thought. I was thinking about the marriage of wit and wisdom. And I was really trying not to get the two plays confused, because the marriage of wit and wisdom had wit as a character and Will as well. But I think wit was Will's servant. And it was kind of a boys' play as well. So I'm just trying to make sure that I don't confuse the marriage of wit and wisdom with Three Ladies and the Rose of London.
Yeah, and that there's other things that connect with that as well, which is coming up in the next scene. So I'm wondering if there are deliberate circular iterations of interconnectedness. I think you're absolutely right. They do feel that they are talking to each other. I think is text. I think that's absolutely right. Okay, let's continue the scene. So, the singing contest goes thusly. So, simplicity sings first, and wit after dialogue-wise, both to music if ye will. I like that as a stage direction. So you can do it without music, or if you can manage it. We don't know what the music is, sadly. So it looks like it's a sort of patter song, so it's call and response. That's how it seems to be structured, much like the rest of the dialogue. So a rap battle is perhaps where we're actually going here. Second callback for that in the last week. So yeah, all sorts of things could be going on here. Anyway, song ends.
Now, sirs, which sings best?
Tush, your copsmates shall not judge. Friend, what say you? Which of us sings best?
To say truth, sir, there's but a bad choice. How will you sell the ballad you sang? For I'll not buy the voice.
Why wilt thou not buy my voice?
Because it will cost me more money to buy salad oil to keep it from rusting than it is worth. But I pray ye, honest man, what's this?
Read, and thou shalt see.
Oh, I cannot read.
Not read? And brought up in London? Went'st thou never to school?
Yeah, but I would not learn.
Thou wast the more fool. If thou cannot read, I'll tell thee. This is Tarleton's picture. Didst thou never know Tarleton?
No. What was that Tarleton? I never knew him.
What was he? Apprentice in his youth of this honorable city, God be with him. When he was young, he was leaning to the trade that my wife useth now, and I have used, vidilis shirt, water bearing. He hath tossed a tankard in Cornhill ere now. If thou knewest him not, I will not call thee Ingram, but if thou knewest not him, thou knewest nobody. I warrant here's 2 crack-roops knew him.
I dwelt with him.
Didst thou? Now give me thy hand, I love thee the better.
And I too, sometime.
You, child, did you dwell with him sometime? Wit dwelt with him indeed, as appeared by his rhyme, and served him well, and Will was with him now and then. But soft, thy name is Wealth. I think in earnest he was little acquainted with thee. Oh, it was a fine fellow as e'er was born. There will never come his like while the earth can corn. Oh, passing fine Tarleton. I would thou hadst lived yet.
He might have some, but thou showest small wit. There is so much finesse in the picture that I see.
Oh, thou art no Cinque-Port man, thou art not wit-free. The fineness was within, for without he was plain. But it was the merriest fellow, and had such jests in store, that if thou hadst seen him, thou wouldst have laughed thy heart sore.
Because of thy praise, what's the price of the picture?
I'll tell thee, my lad. Come hither. If thou wilt be ruled by me, thou shalt pay nothing. I'll give it thee, if thou wilt dwell with me. And I promise thee, this counsel is for thy prefarming. Hadst thou not better serve a free man of the city, and learn a trade to live another day, than to be a serving boy in thy youth, and to have no occupation in thine age? I can make thee free, if thou wilt be my prentice.
Why, wealth is free everywhere. What need I serve you? My lord is a freeman, if that may do me good.
I cry you mercy, master boy. Then your master is free of the Lord's company, and you serve him, that you may be a lord when you come out of your years.
Wealth is a proud boy, Gaffer. What say you to me?
Thy name is Wit. Wilt thou dwell with me?
If I like your name and science, perchance we'll agree.
Nay, my name and mine honesty is all one. It is well known he is a very fool that cannot beguile me, for my name is Simplicity.
Gods, Gaffer, were you not a mealman once, and dwelt with Lady Conscience?
Yes, for want of a better.
What, a better man?
No, for want of a better mistress. She was as very a fool as I. We dwelt so long together that we went both a-begging.
Indeed, that they that use a good conscience cannot suddenly be rich. But I'll not dwell with ye. Ye are too simple a master for me.
Nor I'll not dwell with you for all this world's treasure.
No? Why, whom serve you, Will?
I serve my lord Pleasure.
And whom serve you, Wit?
I serve my lord Policy.
And whom serve you, Wealth?
I serve my lord Pomp.
You should be served all with my lord Birchley, if you were well served. These lads are so lordly that louts care not for them, for Wealth serves Pomp, Wit serves Policy, and Will serves Pleasure. Wealth, will you buy this picture for your lord?
And he shows Tarleton's picture.
No, it is too base a present for Pomp.
And Policy seldom regards such a trifle.
Come on, Gaffer, come on. I must be your best chapman. I'll buy it for Pleasure. Hold, there's a groat.
Gramercy, good Will. My wife shall love thee still. And since I can neither get wit nor wealth, let my wife have her will, and let me have my health. God forgive me. I think I never name her, but it conjures her. Look where she comes. Be mannerly, boys, that she knock ye not with her staff. Keep your own counsel, and I'll make you laugh. What ye lack? What lack ye? Stand away, these boys, from my wares. Get ye from my stall, or I'll wring you by the ears. Let my customers see the wares. What lack ye? What would you have bought?
And enter painful Penury, attired like a water-bearing woman with her tankard.
You have customers enough, and if they were aught. What do you with these boys here to filch away your ware? You show all your wit, you'll ne'er have more care.
Content ye, good wife. We do not filch, but buy.
I meant not you, young master. God's blessing on your heart. You have bought indeed, sir, I see, for your part. Be these two young gentlemen of your company? Buy, gentlemen, buy ballads to make your friends merry.
To stand long with your burden, methinks you should be weary.
True, gentlemen, but you may see poor painful Penury is fain to carry 3 tankards for a penny. But, husband, I say, come not home to dinner. It's Ember Day. You must eat nothing till night but fast and pray. I shall lose my draft at conduit, and therefore I'll away. Young gentlemen, God be with ye.
Wife, must I not dine today?
No, sir, by my fay.
And exit Penury.
If I must not eat, I mean to drink the more. What I spare in bread, in ale I'll set on the score. How say ye, my lads, and do I not speak wisely?
Methinks you do. And it's pretty that Simplicity hath gotten to his wife plain painful penury.
Yea, I thank God, though she be poor and scarce cleanly, yet she is homely, careful, and comely.
Oh, yes. Wit, wealth, and will, come to your lords quickly.
Must the scutcheons hang still?
Yea, let them alone.
Farewell, Master Simplicity.
And exit.
Farewell, good master boys, even heartily, heartily. And here ye will, I thank ye for your hansel, truly. Pretty lads. Hark ye, sirs. Oh, how? Will, wit, wealth.
Re-enter wit.
What's the matter you call us back so suddenly?
Oh, I forgot to ask you whether your 3 lords of London be courtiers or citizens.
Citizens born and courtiers brought up. Is that all? Farewell.
And exit wit again.
Citizens born and courtiers brought up. I think so, for they that be born in London are half courtiers before they see the court. For fineness and mannerliness, oh, passing. My manners and misbehavior is mended half and half since I gave over my mealman and came to dwell in London. You may see, time doth much. Time wears out iron horseshoes. Time tears out millstones. Time seasons a pudding well, and time hath made me a free man, as free to bear water and sell ballads as the best of our copulation. I would have thought once my horse should have been free as soon as myself, and sooner too, for he would have stumbled with a sack of meal and lain along in the channel with it when he had done. And that some calls freedom, but it's but a dirty freedom. But ye may see bad horses were but jades in those days. Soft, here comes customers. What lack ye? What is ye lack? What lack ye? Come along and buy nothing. Fine ballads, new ballads, what lack ye?
And we'll pause there. We can assume that Simplicity actually exits at this point. It doesn't appear to be involved in the scene that follows. So much to say here. So we have... It's 1588 or thereabouts, and Tarleton, member of the Queen's Men, has died. And so we have this scene here, all about, do you remember Tarleton? And there's something really quite sweet about that. And I mean, it's got a little bit of shade in it to it. You know, the best sort of things that you would say at a funeral. You know, wit dwelt with him, and will was with him now and then, but wealth, wasn't acquainted with wealth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if he was acquainted with it, went straight through him. I'm sure he earned quite a lot, actually, but I don't think he ever stayed by his side for very long. And that's really rather sweet. And it brings back, because we were talking, Elizabeth brought it up, I mentioned it earlier, that the odd connectiveness with a marriage between wit and wisdom, and those wit and wisdom plays, is that a third iteration seems to have Tarleton references in it as well. So I'm wondering whether these characters that have been added to this play, wit, will, and wealth, are in some way a weird callback, because they're not in the first Three Ladies of London play. So I'm just wondering if there is a whole deliberate meta thing going on here about that play that this is playing with. That could all be complete hogwash. I'm just throwing it out there. That there seems to be an interesting connection there that we played around with when we looked at that play. So that's one we might want to come back to. Lynn.
Oh, I was just going to kind of agree. I'm not familiar with wit and wisdom, but there's a lot about this play so far that's quite meta. It's very aware of itself as performance. The Simplicity asks a member of the audience, who do you think is a better singer? And they talk about Tarleton, who's a person in real life and not a character in the play. And of course, everyone's allegorical, so they're not really even pretending to be real human beings. So it's very much performance as performance. So yeah, a lot of meta in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's that thing that they're talking about someone who would have been in this play if he hadn't just died. So the audience would know that, the performers would know that. I mean, it's yeah. I'm glad you brought up the friend. What say you? Which of us sings best? I mean, ask the audience. Is a fabulous moment. It's also a quite nice bit when Simplicity goes off on one about which of the boys does he want, and Wealth, Wit, and Will. They're almost like they're just going. Excuse me, are you in there? Because they've been left doing nothing, and it's like he's just gone off in a reverie, and just pull him back. So yeah, I like the line. You should be served with all with my Lord Birchley. I think that's a really nice line. Yeah, other thoughts from the room. Eleanor, how's it coming across to you?
I mean, I really like it. Like all the little pages, just having their sort of like own little wit back and forth, seeing which one can be the wittiest towards this older guy, almost. Like just having a little back and forth with each other. I like that. That's really, really nice.
Yeah, and there's a hint, and then Simplicity's wife comes in, and she's the life and soul of the party, isn't she?
Yeah. And you notice the way that he starts pretending that he's efficiently selling ballads. Oh, get these boys away from here. Buy ballads. Anybody? He's suddenly on the job.
Yeah, it's very like those bits in The Prodigal Son, where the son's out there selling his faggots, and sort of going and his wife is similarly a very similar character in connection with that. So yeah, that yeah. It's also the way that Penury just goes, don't stand near those boys, they'll have all that stuff from under you. So there's a question, maybe the boys have been quietly stealing his wares from, as additional business. Wouldn't put it past them. Only one boy in the peddler at any one time.
Yeah, only 3 school children at a time.
Oh, you're breaking up a bit, Emma. Say again.
Sorry. It's just like it just like nowadays you see on shop fronts. Well, not now because of COVID, but in normal times you'd say only 3 school children at a time in the shop. It's like an older version of that.
Yeah. As many as 3.
Live dangerously.
One in, one out. It's interesting, Simplicity asking, whether your 3 lords of London be courtiers or citizens, and that's, I guess, an interesting response. Simplicity does have interesting party quirks to his language, the way he's using words. How are you finding Simplicity, Lois?
Well, I'm loving it, of course. Yeah, he says a lot of interesting things. There's a rather nice bit about you can't read and yet you were brought up in London. I mean, I think literacy rates were much higher in London than anywhere else, but still it's kind of surprising, this assumption that a child in London would of course have learned to read.
Other thoughts from the room about the
second what Lois said, sorry Eric, he also said that those in London would be courtiers, so they would have knowledge of the court. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, people in London are just more sophisticated than people anywhere else.
Yeah, a town country thing that still survives today. Eric?
I was gonna say that line about what's called wait, let me find it. As free to bear water and sell ballads as the best of our copulation? Like, okay.
Yeah.
Malapropisms.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might just be a typo. I mean, it looks deliberate, but
Yeah.
there's always that slight possibility.
I think it's a mistake for corporation. But I mean, it's his mistake, not yours. Yeah.
Okay, so that's almost the end of a scene. It sort of isn't, because this scene sort of rides into it again. It's the same location, because in theory, simplicity... there's no mention of his exiting, so he could still be wandering around doing wandery stuff. He could be massively upstaging everyone. If he tries that with me, I'd probably clock him one. But that's clowns. They have they push the boundaries as far as the rest of the company will allow them. Anyway, we have the return of the Three Lords' policy, pomp and pleasure, with Nemo, who I don't think we've seen yet today. Who we think is the judge from the previous play. There were 2 Nemos in the last play, and we think they're different characters. But Nemo was the judge who sent down the 3 ladies, as it were. So, enter Nemo and the Three Lords.
My lords, come on, what suits have you to me?
Renowned Nemo, the most only one that draws no breath but of the eternal air, that knowest our suit before we bound to speak. For thou art the very oracle of thoughts, whose virtues do encompass thee about, as the air surrounds this massy globe of earth, who hast in power whatever pleaseth thee, and canst bestow much more than we can crave. To thee we seek, to thee on knees we sue, that thou wilt deign from thraldom to release those lovely dames that London ladies are.
What? Those 3 caitiffs long ago condemned? Love, Lucre, conscience. Well deserving death, being corrupt with all contagion. The spotted ladies of that stately town.
Love, Lucre, conscience, we of thee desire, wishing thyself hast all perfection, accomplished with all integrity, and needest no help to do what pleaseth thee, which holdest fame and fortune both thy slaves, and dost compel the destinies draw the coach. To thee we sue, sith power thou hast thereto, to set those ladies at their liberty.
Liberty, thou spotless magistrate, that of the cause dost carry all regard, careless of bribes, of birth and parentage, because thyself art only born to bliss. Bless us so much, Lord, may by our suits release of thraldom find.
Release, my lords? Why seek ye their release that have perpetual prison for their doom?
Nemo can from thence redeem them all.
Their deeds were cause, not Nemo of their thrall.
It's Nemo was the judge that sentence gave.
But Nemo never spilled whom he could save.
Thou from perpetual prison mayst revoke.
Death hath no power against him to give a stroke.
Thou only mild and courteous sir, vouchsafe to grant our suit, and set those ladies free.
What is your purpose in this earnest suit?
To marry them, and make them honest wives.
Be may it be, that men of your regard, lords of such fortune and so famous place, will link yourselves with ladies so forlorn, and so disdained with more than common crimes.
Marriage doth make amends for many a miss.
Love doth cover heaps of cumbrous evils,
And doth forget the faults that were before.
Mean as you say, you need to say no more.
In token that we mean what we have said, lo, here are shields, the prizes of our love, to challenge all, except thyself, that dare deny those ladies to be ours by right.
Woo them and win them and wear them too. I shall both comfort and discourage you, my lords. The comfort's this: of all those former crimes wherewith the world was wont these dames to charge, I have them cleared, and made them all as free as they were born, no blemish left to see. But the discouraged, gentle lords, is this: the time of their endurance hath been long, whereby their clothes of cost and curious stuff are worn to rags, and give them much disgrace.
Alas, good ladies, was there none that sued for their release before we took it in hand?
Yes, divers for fair Lucre sought release, and some for love would fain have paid the fees. But silly conscience sat without regard in sorrow's dungeon, sighing by herself. Which when I saw that some did sue for love, and most for Lucre, none for conscience, a vow I made, which now I shall perform, till some should sue to have release for all. Judged as they were, they should remain in thrall. But you, that crave their freedoms all at once, shall have your suit, and see them here ere long. A little while you must have patience, and leave this place. Go in, my lords, before.
Cometh us to wait on Nemo still.
Not so, but, lordlings, one condition more. You promise me, sith they are in my power, I shall dispose them, when they are released, upon you three, as I shall think it best.
Command, and we shall all subscribe.
Then go your ways, for I have here to do.
Exeunt three lords. Enter Sorrow.
Sorrow, draw near. Tomorrow bring thou forth love, Lucre, conscience, whom thou hast in thrall. Upon these stones to sit and take the air, but set no watch or spile what they do.
And they exit, and I'm calling that officially the end of a scene. So we're going to have some stones in a moment. That's going to be exciting. We've got three shields. We're going to have some stones. Sorrow, presumably being Nemo's jailer. There, it's an interesting name for his profession. Okay, I'm going to ask Pomp, pleasure, policy. You've been reading your characters for a while now. Why do you want to marry these three ladies again? Have you given a reason?
Nope. Adherence
I was
to
wondering
convention.
Elizabeth, say again, Elizabeth.
I was wondering what Lucre meant.
Money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, the most wicked of the three ladies, the one who drew them all into her wicked web, as it were. Yeah, she did some terrible things. Yeah, but have we? I'm not imagining these three lords have absolutely no reason why, have given no reason why they want to marry these three ladies. I mean, in a sense, it's very nice. They're going to get them freed. What is this sort of shining knight complex thing? Is it that it feels like they need to save these people? What's going on? Thoughts, theories.
Puppy love, maybe?
But have they even met them?
Probably not.
No, because in the first scene they said that it's all just hearsay. They haven't actually met them in person yet. And before they decide to actually fight amongst themselves for Lucre, they should actually meet them all and see which one they're best suited to. So that's their plan, I think. But prior to that, I'm not sure. I think I remember Pleasure saying that he'd looked all around and this was the one, but he didn't really give detail than that.
Is it like Married at First Sight? Is this a television format that they're following? I'm feeling that might be a way in for our viewers today. Helen and then Eric.
It gets slightly worse too, because they've had to agree that they don't get the pick. They will be allocated one of the ladies by Nemo.
Yeah, Nemo seems to have an agenda that I haven't quite figured out yet.
Yeah, but as I remember it at the beginning, there was some discussion about whose was which.
Yeah.
To which the audience was not privy.
No, there was a certain discussion. Eric.
I was gonna say it's sort of like you could stage it like a dating show, where like a blind date kind of thing, 3 men for 3 ladies, kind of. I don't know. That would be kind of weird though. Yeah. Also, having Sorrow as the jailer, that just strikes me as like having Eeyore being being the jailer. Sort of, it's a bad day.
Yeah, I guess blind date sort of. Again, it does feel like that kind of thing. You know, are they swiping left or right? That's the question. Other thoughts from the room? Lois.
Well, I think usually in romance, knights come from afar to woo somebody they've only heard of, don't they? And fight for her, and they don't have to have any personal knowledge or, you know, care about her at all. It's just sort of the symbolism of the whole thing.
Yeah, but presumably they've just moved from one borough to another or something. You know.
Yeah.
They're all from London.
Well, maybe these are the three ladies of London, and they are the three lords of London. And since they want to marry somebody in London, QED. You know.
Nominative determinism.
Yeah.
Other thoughts? Okay, let's move on. We don't actually have that much more left to, officially to do this session. We might saunter on if we're making good time. So we're going into what I'm calling Scene 2. I don't know if that's if there is a more modern edition that has a better idea, but it seems logical. So Scene 2, enter fraud, usury, dissimulation, simony, and simplicity. So these are people we've mostly met before.
How happy may we call this merry day, my mates, wherein we meet that once were desperate. I think ever to have seen one another. When Nemo, that upright judge, had by imprisoning our mistress banished us, by setting such diligent watch for us out of London, and almost out of the world. But live we yet, and we are met, and near our old seat. Usury, is it thou? Let me see, or hath some other stolen thy face? Speak'st thou, man?
No, fraud, though many have counterfeited both thee and me, we are ourselves yet, and no changelings I see. And wouldst thou ask me, man, if I live? This silly ass cannot feed on harder forage than usury. She upon thistles, and I upon a brown crust of a month old.
So that usury and an ass are two of the profitablest beasts that a man may keep, yet the one hath sharper teeth than the other.
But what means dissimulation? He droops, methinks. What cheer, man? Why, cousin, frolic a fit. Art thou not glad of this meeting? What is the cause of thy melancholy?
I've not given out a dissimulation, have I?
No.
Eric, your time has come. Step forth, Eric, and be dissimulation.
Not melancholic, but musing how it comes to pass that we are thus fortunate to meet as we do.
I'll tell thee why we are met. Because we are no mountains.
But ye are as ill, for ye are monsters.
And men may meet, though mountains cannot.
In token that this meeting is joyous to all, let us embrace all together with heart's joy and affection.
I see many of these old proverbs prove true. 'Tis merry when knaves meet.
How, sir? What's that?
If a man had a casting net, he might catch all you.
Art thou not simplicity?
Good man, simplicity, for I am married and like your mastership. And you are master fraud too, a pox on your worship. I see a fox and a false knave have all one luck, the better for banning. And many of you crafty knaves live merrier than we honest men.
Sirrah, bridle your tongue. If you'll be welcome to our company, no girds or old grudges, but congratulate this meeting. And sirs, if you say it, let's tell how we have lived since our parting.
Oh, it is great pity.
What, to tell how we have lived?
No, that ye do live.
Yet again, sirrah, Usury, as for thee, it were folly to ask, for thou livest but too well. But Dissimulation and Simony, how have you two lived? Discourse, I pray you, heartily.
Faith, even like two mice in an ambery that eat up all the meat, and when they've done, gnaw holes in the cupboard.
Lord, after my escaping away at the sessions where I shifted, as thou knowest, in 3 sundry shapes, one of a friar, and they can dissemble, another like a woman, and they do little else, the third is a saint and a devil, and so is a woman, I was banished out of London by Nemo. To the country went I amongst my old friends, and never better loved than among the russet coats. Once in a month I stole in the old market day to Leadenhall, and about, and sometime to Westminster Hall. Now, hearing some speech that the ladies should be sued for, I'm come in hope of my old entertainment, supposing myself not known of many, and hoping the 3 lords will prevail in their suit, and I to serve one of them.
He shall do well that gives thee a coat, but he should do better that could take off thy skin.
And I have been a traveller abroad in other realms, for here I am so cried out against by the preachers, and yet some ministers that be none could be content to use me, that I was glad to be agone. Now, in some other lands, and not very far off, I'm secretly fostered, saving in Scotland and the Low Countries, where they are reformed, they cannot abide me. One now and then hither I came stealing over sea, and hearing as you hear, intend as you do.
And for mine own part, among artificers and amongst a few bad conscience lawyers, I have found such entertainment as does pass. Yet would I with Lucre fain be as I was.
Fraud is as ill as a cut purse, by the mass.
And for usury, the longer I live, the greater love I find. Yet I would be with Lucre again, to please my mind.
Here's a good fellow too, one of our acquaintance. How hast thou lived, Simplicity?
More honestly than all the rest of thy company. For when I might beg no longer, as begging was but bad, for you cozened me once of my alms, I fell to tankard bearing, and so got a wife of the same science, painful Penury. Then got I my freedom, and feeling my shoulder grow weary of the tankard, set up an easier trade, to sell ballads.
Hast thou stopped to set up withal?
Wise enough to tell you, and yonder's my stall. But beware I lose nothing, for if I do, I'll lay it straight to some of you. For I saw none so like thieves, I promise you, since I set up.
You are a wise man when your nose is in the cup. But soft, who comes here? Step we close aside, for these be the 3 ladies for my life brought out of prison by their keeper. Let us be whist, and we shall hear and see all. Sirrah, you must say nothing.
So they remain on stage while Sorrow and the 3 ladies come on. I think to sum up what's just happened here is it's sequelitis a bit. This sequence is just going, how have you been since the first episode? Since the first film, we've been doing all this stuff. It's been awful. And yeah, I remember you from last time. Ha ha ha. It's slightly less engaging because it's filling in, reminding everyone who fraud, usury, etc. are. Thoughts from the room on that little sequence? Helen.
Simplicity is the commentator. I mean, he is engaged in the scene, but more of it is commentary.
Yeah, I think that's what he did in the first part as well, especially at the beginning. He kind of has this double role of being someone who sees through all the villains, and yet someone who's apparently an idiot and can be, made jokes of by everybody.
That's the clown. Clowns don't have to quite make sense as long as it gets a laugh. Yeah, any other thoughts about this particular bit? I mean, it's like Simplicity telling us all again that he sells ballads, and this is stuff we as the audience already know, and it's like we need to perhaps know what Fraud and Usury have been up to. We don't need Simplicity to tell us all this stuff again, so that is less successful. Anyone want to defend it as a sequence? I've been down on it. I'm not normally down on things. I usually start from a positive position, but no, nobody does. Right, okay. Eric.
Well, I guess if you've not seen the first part, you kind of need a recap, or we haven't really seen them since they kind of scattered and disappeared into, I don't know, across the land, I guess.
And of course, that they are the servants of the three ladies, and we're about to see the three ladies come on. So it's pulling all those threads together, and the play spent quite a long time talking about the three ladies without bringing them on stage. They've set the scene quite nicely. So Fraud, Simplicity, Usury, Dissimulation, etc. They're all standing upstage or out of the way, remaining silent, while this now happens. Enter Sorrow and the three ladies. He sets them on 3 stones on the stage.
Not till ye speak, for I am afraid of him that's with the women.
Sorrow, when, sorrow, wilt thou cease to blow the spark that burns my troubled soul, to feed the worm that stings my fainting breast, and sharp the steel that gnaws my bleeding heart? My thoughts are thorns, my tears hot drops of lead. I plain, I pine, I die, yet never dead. If world would end, my woe should but begin. Lo, this is the case of conscience for her sin, and sing the food wherewith my worm has fed, that stings me now to death, yet never dead.
Yet never dead, and yet love doth not live. Love, that to loss in life her folly led. Folly, the food whereon her frailty fed. Frailty, the milk that nature's breast did give. Life, loss, and folly. Frailty, food, and kind, worm, sting, thorns, fire, and torment to the mind. Life but a breath, and folly but a flower. Frailty, clay, dust, the food that fancy scorns. Love, a sweet bait to cover losses sour. Flesh breeds the fire that kindles lustful thorns. Lust, fire, bait, scorn, dust, flower, and feeble breath, die, quench, deceive, fly, failed, and yield to death. To death? Oh, good, if death might finish all. We die each day, and yet for death we call.
For death we call, yet death is still in sight. Lucre doth scold in drops of melting gold, accusing rust calls on eternal night, where flames consume, and yet we freeze with cold. Sorrow adds sulphur into fury's heat, and chops them ice whose chattering teeth do beat. But sulphur, snow, flame, frost, nor hideous crying can cause them die that ever are in dying, nor make the pain diminish or increase. Sorrow is slack, and yet will never cease.
When sorrow ceaseth, shame shall then begin with those that wallow senseless in their sin. But ladies, I have drawn you from my den to open air to mitigate some moan. Conscience, sit down upon that sweating stone, and let that flint, love, serve thee for a seat. And Lady Lucre, on that stone rest you. And ladies, thus I leave you here alone. Mourn ye, but moan not, I shall absent be, but good it were sometimes to think on me.
And Sorrow exits.
But it is to think on sorrow past.
Sorrow remains where joy is but a blast.
A blast of wind is world's felicity.
Passing wind and full of misery.
Oh, conscience, thou hast more tormented me.
Me hath thy worm, oh, conscience stung too deep.
More myself my thoughts tormented have, than both of you in sorrow's sullen cave, from whence drawn forth I find but little rest, a seat uneasy, wet and scalding hot, on this hard stone hath sorrow me assigned.
And on my seat myself I frozen find, no flint more hard, no ice more cold than this.
I think my seat some mineral stone to be. I cold from it, it draweth heat from me. Ladies, consent, and we our seats will view.
Dare we for shame our stained faces shew?
Ah, my double face is single grown again.
My spots are gone, my skin is smooth and plain.
Doff we our veils and greet this gladsome light, the chaser of gloom, sorrow's heavy night.
Oh, hail, cheerful air and clearest crystal sky.
Hail, shining sun and fairest firmament, comfort to those that time in woe have spent.
On my weeping stone is set remorse in brazen letters.
And on this flint and lead is charity.
In golden letters on my stone is care.
Then Lucre sits upon the stone of care.
And conscience on the marble of remorse.
Love on the flint of frozen charity. Ladies, alas, what tuttered souls are we?
Sorrow our hearts, and time our clothes have torn.
Then sit we down like silly souls forlorn, and hide our faces that we be not known. For sorrow's plagues tormenteth me no more. Then will their sight that knew me here before.
Then will their sight that knew us heretofore more ruth and help from them for our relief.
For our relief, for conscience and for love, no help, small ruth that our distress may move.
Oh, conscience, thou wouldst lead me to despair, but that I see the way to hope is fair, and hope to heaven directs a ready way, and heaven to help is pressed to them that pray.
That pray with faith and with unfeigned remorse, for true belief and tears make prayer of force.
Then veil ourselves and silent let us stay, till heaven shall please to send some friends this way.
And they all sit down. I was going to stop here, but I think we're going to just let this scene rattle on a little longer. We should double it fine. So, fraud, dissimulation, etc. all step forward to reintroduce themselves to their mistresses.
Ladies, unmask. Blush not for base attire. Here are none but friends and servants all. Dear Lady Lucre, dearer unto us than daily breath we draw from sweetest air. Dearer than life, dearer than heaven itself. Deign to discover those alluring lamps, those lovely eyes more clear than Venus' star, whose bright aspects world's wonder do produce. Unveil, I say, that beauty more divine than nature, save in thee, did ever paint, that we, sworn slaves unto our mistress, may once more behold those stately, lovely looks, and do those duties which us well beseems, such duties as we all desire to do.
I know that tongue. Beware of fraud.
Of fraud? Indeed, by speech it should be he. Fraud? What seekest thou?
Lucre, to honour thee with wit, with worth, with all I have, to be thy servant as I was before, to get thee clothes and what thou wantest else.
No, fraud, farewell. I must be one no more to keep such servants as I did before.
Sweet Lady Lucre, me thou mayst accept.
How art thou called?
Simony.
Aye. No, sir. Conscience saith.
No, Lucre, now beware. Force not thy faith, for Simony's subject to perpetual curse.
As you two have sped, I would desire to speed no worse.
Make you your suit. You may chance to speed better.
Not I, for of all my tongue is best known. But if I speak, it shall be to her that was once mine own. Good lady love, thou little knowest the grief that I, thy friend, sustain for thy distress, and yet less believest what care I have of thee. Look up, good love, and to supply thy wants ask what thou wilt, and thou shalt have of me. Of me that more in thy liberty than in this life or light that comforts me.
Oh, gall and honey, serpent in the grass, oh, bifold fountain of two bitter streams, dissimulation fed with viper's flesh, whose words are oil, whose deeds the darts of death. Thy tongue I know, that tongue that me beguiled, thyself a devil makes me a monster viled. From thee well known, well may I bless myself. Dear bought repentance bids me shun thy snare.
Happy love, if now thou can beware.
Marry, but hear ye, motley beard, I think this blindfold buzzardly hedge-wench spoke to thee. He knows ye, though she see thee not. Hark ye women, if you'll go to the alehouse, I'll bestow 2 pots on ye, and we'll get a pair of cards and some company, and win 20 pots more. You play the best at a game called Smelling of the Four Knaves that ever I saw.
Or, what would they have not smelled thee?
No, I am one more than is in the deck, but you'll be smelled as soon as you begin to speak. I'll see what they'll say to me. Hear ye women, wives, widows, maids, men's daughters, what shall I call ye? These 4 fellows, will I call ye crafty knaves? Make me believe that you are the 3 that were the 3 fair ladies of London.
Gentle simplicity, we are unhappy they.
Now, ye bad fellows, which of ye had such a word as gentle, Sim?
Bad fellow, you rascal. If ere you bring me pawn, I'll pinch you for that word.
Oh, I cry you mercy, Master Inquiry, Master Usury. I meant not you.
If you meant us, we may be even with ye too.
Tut, I knew ye an ostler and a thief besides. You've rubbed my horse heels ere now for all your pride. But ladies, if ye be the 3 ladies, which of you dwelt in Kent Street? One of you did, but I know not which is she. Ye look all so like broom wenches. I was once her servant. I'll ne'er be ashamed of her, though I be rich and she be poor. Yet if she that hath been my dame, or he that hath been my master, come in place, I'll speak to them, sure, I'll do my duty. Which is Lady Conscience?
Even I am she, Simplicity.
Oh, I'm glad you're out of prison. I thought ye had forgot me. I went a-begging for you till the beadles snapped me up. Now I am free and keep a stall of ballads. I may buy and sell. I would ye had as good a gown now as I carried once of yours to pawn to Usury here.
For mercy, good Simplicity, wilt thou be with me now?
No, I thank you heartily. I'll beg no more. I cannot with ye, though I would, for I'm married to painful Penury. Look now, my proud, stately masters, I may if I will, and you would if you might.
No, not dwell with such a beggar as Conscience.
Fraud never loved Conscience since he was an ostler.
Who cares for Conscience but dies a beggar?
That will not Usury do. He will first take 60 pound in the 100.
Love, look on me, and I will give thee clothes.
I will no more by thee be so disguised.
You do the wiser, for his face looks like a cloak back.
In thy affections I had once a place.
Those fond affections wrought me foul disgrace.
I'll make amends if aught amiss were done.
Who once are burned, the fire will ever shun.
And yet once burned to warm again may prove.
Not at thy fire. I will be perfect love.
I promise you, the wenches have learned to answer wittily. Here's many fair proffers to Lucre and Love. But who clothes poor conscience? She may sit long enough.
Usury?
Sorry. I will clothe her straight.
Usury takes Fraud's cloak and casts it on Conscience.
Will you, Master Usury? That's honestly spoke. That's no gramercy to clothe her with another man's cloak. But I see you have a craft in the doing, Master Usury. Usury covers Conscience with Fraud's cloak very cunningly.
Yes! Who loads my shoulders with this heavy weed? Fie! How it stinks! This is perfumed indeed.
Marry God, goody Conscience, indeed I do you wrong, but I'll quickly right it, my cloak shall not cumber you long.
All this while Lucre knows not I am here, and now will I to her. Mark how I speed. Lady, the fairest that nature ever formed, lodestone of love that draws affection's darts, the only object of all humane eyes, and sole desired dainty of the world, thy vassal here, of virtue in thy need, whom thou by license of the law mayst use, tenders himself and all his services to do thy will in duty as tofore, glad of thy freedom as his proper life.
Lady Lucre, you love an apple. Take heed the caterpillar consume not your fruit.
Who is it that maketh this latest suit?
'Tis Usury.
Great is the service he hath done for me. But, Usury, now I may not deal with thee.
The law allows me, madam, in some sort.
God and I would have thy bounds cut short.
For you I reck not, but if God me hate, what doth the law allow me in some rate?
Usury slanders both law and state. The law allows not, though it tolerate, and thou art sure be shut out at heaven gate.
You are ever nice, no matter what you prate.
Then it will be with him as it is with a great man's house at dinner time. He that knocks when the door is shut comes too late.
Well, usury, fraud, and simony, dissimulation, hearken unto me. My tongue, although in memory it be green, cannot declare what horrors I have seen. Nay, can it enter into mortal ears, unmortified, the furies, fires, the shrieks, the groans, the tortures, and the pains that any soul for each of you sustains. No pen can write how conscience hath me scourged, when with your faults my soul she ever urged. Arithmetic doth fail to number all the plagues of sorrow in the den of thrall. Then tempt me not, nor trouble me no more. I must not use you as I did before. If you be found within fair London's gate, you must to prison, whence we came of late. Conscience will accuse ye, if ye be in sight.
That scurvy Conscience works us all a spite.
Enter Nemo.
Well, Lucre, yet in thee we have delight.
Yonder comes some, we must take our flight.
And so all the various servant exits, simplicity remains.
Birds of a feather will flock together, but when they be taken, then are they bacon. Yonder comes a customer. I'll to my stall. Love, lucre, and conscience, blindman buff to you all.
And we can assume that Simplicity exits, at least to his stall, but presumably also potentially off stage, and before other stuff happens, because we have Nemo chatting to the ladies, and then the lords enter. It's not the end of the scene, but it is the end of the session. So yes, we've really got the three ladies of London repenting here. You know, they're sitting on their stones marked remorse, charity, and care. They're not going to move. Their servants turn up and go, "Hi, it's us," and they say, "Go away." And there's real attempts there to turn them around. You know, go back to your old wicked ways. And Lucre sums it up at the end: "We are reformed. Go away." There's a nice callback to last time. You all look like you look all like like broom wenches. We had a broom seller last time. I think it was it Conscience ended up broom selling? I can't remember. One of the ladies did selling brooms. Yes, there's an interesting callback. Constant referring to clothing and status inferred by clothing. So they're still wearing their finery, but it's now knackered from their imprisonment. Thoughts about this scene, Lois?
Yeah, they're wearing veils too, and I'm wondering at what point they finally take them off. I mean, they say that they now look a lot better because, of course, they looked terrible in the previous scene because their guilt was showing on their faces. But that's I think why people keep saying which one of you is which, because they're not unveiled yet, I think.
Yeah, because they veil themselves when they sit down. So before that, they're coming on and saying, all the deformities we had before have gone. Isn't it wonderful? My double face is single grown again. My spots are gone. My skin is smooth and plain. So I don't know what cream she was using. But course of antibiotics would probably be more appropriate. But anyway. So then they veil themselves, and I think perhaps it's sometime around when Simplicity's talking to them, maybe. But yes, or maybe they don't until maybe it's part of when the Lords come on. I don't know. That is one to pick up. But yes, there's a very clear stage picture. We've got these shields. They're still up there, as far as we know. The stones are there. We've presumably got some stall for Simplicity, or somewhere for Simplicity to go. So the stage has got points to it and points of interest. Lois again.
Well, yeah. Another thing about the staging, I'm interested in those stones. I mean, presumably they're brought on first, and the women stand on them, and then they sit on them. But it's not until they get up again that we actually see what's written on them. So, is it on the back? I mean, do they turn them over? This should be some sort of stage effect, I think.
Well, it might be that the audience can see them, and it's only they only read them. They only look down at their stone towards that moment there. So, I mean, the stones might. There's no indication of when the stones themselves are brought on, particularly. I mean, he sets them on 3 stones on the stage. It doesn't actually say how they get there.
Nemo asks Sorrow to bring them on, doesn't he?
Yeah, but there's no indication that he does. It says enter Sorrow. He sets them on 3 stones. Unless Sorrow is just doing that while Simplicity and Fraud, etc., doing their scene. There's a random stone business. Other thoughts about this scene? The repentance of the ladies. Were you enjoying being repentant? Just these pained looks from everybody.
It's just typical, isn't it, that 3 women are the ones that have to repent for things that they have done or have sinned for. You never in these medieval plays see 3 men sitting on a stone repenting for things they've done. It's just typical.
Yeah, trust me, it was worse in the first play. Trust me, it was even more depressingly judgmental. Eric.
What I found interesting is that they're obviously trying to gain their trust, and they decide they kind of can't anymore. But basically the party pooper is Conscience. It's not like one of the other ones. The other 2 were kind of willing participants in the first play, at least, and then they've sort of said, yeah, no, Conscience said this, therefore we can't do this anymore.
Yeah, because if anyone shouldn't really be repentant, it's Conscience, because Conscience was forced into doing all the various activities that people judged her on last time. Lucre, fair enough by and large. She was obviously quite a nasty person. But, Conscience was basically blackmailed into doing terrible things and forced into these situations. So Conscience has really no reason to repent, just it's really, really quite judgy on her. Other thoughts on this scene specifically, Eric?
I was going to say it's like we step out of the main story with the lords and the sort of, banter, basically, and then we step into this, like, sort of mini frame. Maybe to explain why they're not going to, why we're not going to get Dissimulation and all those guys again. And then we go back to, obviously, the next scene, which we haven't done yet. We're going to cut back to the, like, real life or something, whatever you want to call them.
Well, yeah, we're going to have the return of the Lords, so it's going to be interesting to see what goes on there, and how they interact or don't interact with the three ladies. I don't know. I haven't looked ahead, but I'm assuming that the three boys are doubling as the three ladies.
Ah.
I'm assuming this. I don't know. I haven't looked ahead to whether that actually happens. But that's just in my mind, is that you've got three boy players. They're going to be playing the women. So there's enough time for them to change for this scene. I remember in the Three Lords and the Three Ladies of London, there were actually potentially only two of the ladies. One of them was played by the same person potentially. So in fact, there were only two ladies to play the three ladies, as it were. Elizabeth.
Staging device of the stones. Because when I first heard that the stones were on stage, I was like, oh, what's this about? But after they were used and they were spoken about in dialogue, I thought they were quite interesting. They were quite intriguing.
Yeah, there's a sort of a shame spot, for people. It's not quite a pillory, is it? It's sort of you sit there because it's not like they're tied to them. Their shame will keep them on the stone, and their repentance will keep them there. In theory. Okay. Any additional thoughts about this scene before we go into final thoughts about the play overall so far? Okay, so we're a little bit beyond a third of the way through. We've done a little more text than we normally would have done because we actually started a little early today, which has meant we've been able to get a little ahead. Bits of this play are very calling back to the previous. That's the bit we've sort of collided into here. But the opening of the play was very much its own beast for the most part, with the three lords and their servants and the word play and the stuff going on. Thoughts about maybe staging this today, but also just general thoughts about the play itself, its tone, its themes, just where we're at with the three lords and the three ladies of London. I think I'll start with Lynn. Lynn, what are your final thoughts on the play so far?
Well, one thing I'm struggling with today is keeping all the abstractions straight. It helped a little to have the pages say, oh, wit serves policy, okay, that makes sense, and will serves pleasure, okay, that makes sense when you understand what will was in the early modern period, and wealth serves pomp, okay, so those relationships make sense, but then you add dissimulation and fraud and usury and simony, and I'm starting to lose track. So that's something that may be a little challenge for a producer is kind of making that all make sense, or maybe it doesn't necessarily matter that the audience keeps dissimulation and fraud. Great, that's another possibility. But right now, I'm kind of trying. It's hard for me to keep it all straight in my head and follow what's going on. So that's one thing that's going on. But I'm very interested, having read in the Three Ladies sessions, Lucre seems to be reformed, and that I'm not sure I buy that. So I'm really intrigued. I am looking forward to seeing what is going to happen with Lucre, because you wouldn't think, given her name, her allegorical identity, that she is reformable. So it's very interesting.
Is it Blag all over again? That's the question, isn't it? Yeah, I wonder. I mean, we've got a lot of references to costuming, and the visual dimension to this seems quite well defined. And I'm wondering also whether it matters so far whether we know what their allegorical places are. I think in the last play it did play very heavily on who they were and how they functioned. I'm not sure so far in the play that it matters. All that matters is there are 3 lords, there are 3 ladies, there's 3 servants, and there's some chap called Simplicity. And there's a Judge Nemo. In a sense, their individuality doesn't so far matter, but maybe further down the line it will, beyond, just the verbal fencing. But it's a good point. I mean, I think, keeping track of who everyone is a really important thing. Lois, final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I'm pleased to be reading this play because I was looking forward to finding out how things go on from 3 ladies, which was a really harsh ending with condemnation all over the place. And it's odd because the typical morality play, you think of once somebody is established as a virtue, they stay virtuous, but there didn't appear to be any stable virtuous characters. And you think things like conscience and love would stay good. I think one thing I find very interesting is that this does seem to be one of the rare cases where women can sin and repent and be redeemed, because as we've just seen with Jane Shore, for example, the only real virtue women have is chastity, and once they lose it, they can't by definition get it back. And so that's why there can never be really a female everyman character, because there's never any possibility of last minute repentance. But these women apparently can repent and start a new life, which is interesting.
And as of yet, we haven't figured out what the motivations of the lords are in relation to that. So that I'm really looking forward to finding out how they interact with each other. That's going to be something that's hopefully going to come up. Alan, final thoughts?
I must admit, I'm not that engaged with it. The only sequence that to me has really worked was the banter between the 3 lads early on. And I felt to a certain extent that some of the routine that was going on between the ladies and the vices in the bit we've just done was a sort of slightly pale shadow of the same sort of game. And it just wasn't working. I was thinking that, quite honestly, you could take that initial sequence, and it's not a scene as such because there aren't scene divisions, but you could actually take that initial bit with the 3 lads initially on their own, and then with Simplicity as part feed, part chump. You could have a heck of a lot of fun with that with a youth theatre group. They would really get into that and really enjoy it.
I agree up to a point. I do think that there is an element that most of this play is currently being held up by witty banter and just the energy of it, because in a sense nothing really happens for a good half an hour, and then what happens? 3 ladies come on and stand on a stone. There isn't much action. It is really about how the dialogue and the themes within it keep everything up in the air. If the boys and the women are played by the same people, then there is an interesting sort of technical virtuosity display thing going on there as well, being able to be quite different characters in quite different ways. So there's something quite interesting potentially there. I don't know yet whether that is actually a genuine doubling thing or not. We may find out in future sessions. Helen, final thoughts?
Yes, I'm to an extent I'm with Alan in that the play isn't actually grabbing me in the way some other plays have. I am increasingly thinking that it's written for a boys' company. I don't know why, it just feels that way. But the character that does engage me is Simplicity. I'm very interested in the way he is changing his job and descending as he gets older. And I mean, the fact that his wife is a water carrier, a job that he is no longer up to doing, does indicate that she is a pretty physically strong woman, painful penury, because water is tremendously heavy when you're carrying it on your shoulder. But I'm interested in the various jobs he's taken on, because people think of people as having professions or having a line. But in fact, people moved very much from one job to another, I think, at the lowest end of society.
Yeah. I mean, the lament for Tarleton and those elements there are fairly good indicators that it is written for the Queen's men. But then there is always that possibility that it goes through other lives. But it is a boy. In a sense, those are boys' parts. I think that's absolutely right. I think they're clearly referred to as boys. So, but I don't think the rest of the parts are feeling particularly boy per se. I mean, we know that Simplicity is a man.
Yes.
Or at least an adult. Eric, final thoughts?
Yeah, it's kind of at the beginning. It seemed to be gathering a lot of momentum, and then suddenly we get to these three ladies and the whole the discourse around that, and it seems to be slowing down a lot. But I think that might be because they're trying to sort of do the recap as well. So it's so we know who these characters are if we've not seen the previous one. And I think it's quite funny that you get descriptions of characters. I can't remember if you did last time, but Dissimulation being described as oh, thy face is like a cloak back, or or all the insults that are sneaking in, and sort of wordplay, and the whole description of the tortoise under a cart. I'm animal activists would go crazy about that one. But yeah, I think it's one of those plays that is a slow burn because it has to deal with being a sequel.
It's a question really about how static that scene with the stones is. I mean, just because the ladies by their nature are rooted to the spot doesn't mean that the usury, fraud, etc. They could be sort of moving on and on each of them in turn, and that may suggest actually quite interesting blocking possibilities as they go from one place to another and turn on different people. So there could be quite a lot of potential energy in that that it doesn't necessarily get off the page. Of course, it could also be incredibly static because there's three people rooted to the spot. It might go either way. Elizabeth, final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm really enjoying this play, actually. I agree with Helen and Alan that it's taking some time to get going, but I do enjoy it a lot. I really enjoyed the fact that with Usury, Penury, and Lucre, they're neither virtues nor vices. I think it's really difficult to pen down any of the characters in this play as either a virtue or a vice. And I think it's to do with, is it Wilson, the author? Yeah, it's to do with his use of language. I thought the rhyming couplets that were shared between characters, especially when the ladies came on, was really lovely. And they pick up the end of the last person sentence for a new verse, for a new stanza, which I thought was really lovely as well. So I'm enjoying this play a lot. I really like it.
Okay, moving on to Eleanor. You didn't catch part one. How are you enjoying it? The sequel.
I'm up to this, up to a point, I think. I'm with Alan and Helen that it's a slow burner of what we've just read, and I think it is just one of those where it's got to keep catch up to speed. What if you were watching part one? And if you haven't, here's the rundown. And then we can get into all the fun stuff with Simplicity just going around the stage and having those funny back and forths with the pages, which works really well because that for me feels like the quicker part of the play, and that works, the back and forth. You think, oh, this is a good thing. And then you get into the slow bit of, obviously the ladies have to repent, which, let's just put my feminist bit aside because that wasn't a thing in the 1500s in the United Kingdom, but
it is a thing if we want to stage it today. So by all means,
and it's a thing that you have to, if you want to stage it, it's a big thing you have to considerably think about. As Eric has just put deep breaths in the chat, which just made me go. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a bit 50-50. I'm its biggest fan, but I'm also not wanting to burn it. So I'm not too sure about it. Maybe when we read more over the coming days, it might change.
See, I don't know that it's a slow burner. It is just the fact that, in a sense, nothing really occurs. I mean, I think everything that's happening is actually happening quite quickly. It's quite snappy. There aren't that many really long. You have occasional moments of long speeches, but the wit and will and wealth stuff really clips along, and and then there's these they pull it back for this almost gratuitous bit about Tarleton, which it feels like sentimentality is being squeezed out of that scene in a way that we can't today. I don't know who they'd talk about today. Some recently deceased celebrity, of which we've got quite a few actually at the moment. So yeah, I wonder about the thing that's blocking me at the moment is just simply there's nothing really to grab hold of. The stuff is happening, but it has, we've got set up. We haven't actually had any kind of complication yet, and it's all being kept up by wordplay and stuff, and that's difficult stuff. Emma, final thoughts from you?
So kind of in reaction to what some people have been saying, I guess it would obviously lift off the page more with some strong characterization, which obviously we can't do on a first reading. But that, I think, is a fun challenge to an actor, especially with the morality play, where you're playing a character that represents something. So necessarily it has to be quite bold, maybe almost caricature, but also balancing that with being a character in their own right and someone that the audience can connect to. So finding that balance as an actor is quite interesting. And then it's a play that's full of threes, of groupings of people, the courtly lords, the bantering boys, the sorrowful ladies. And what's interesting is finding the
you were about to say something interesting, and then you cut out.
I think they're quite.
Sorry,
okay.
The interesting thing was.
Cut out there. The interesting thing with the three ladies that the section we've just read, is that they do act as a single unit in a way. They pick up each other's sentences, as Elizabeth was saying, but they're quite distinct in their own right as well. So those opening speeches where they talk about the sorrow that they feel, Conscience is full of big, long vowel sounds, and Love, her speech is like a list. It's just word, comma, word, comma, word, comma. So they all talk in quite different ways, which you can obviously explore a lot more.
Yes, Lois.
Yeah, I was really struck by some of those speeches. I mean, I think the author must have seen or read the Spanish tragedy, or maybe it was the other way around. But there are a lot of the same mannerisms. I mean, that noun and then description of noun, another noun, and then a whole string of verbs, each of which goes with exactly the right noun, in the bit before it. I mean, you pretty much have to diagram the sentences. It would be quite fun to play with them. But I mean, it's so elaborate, some of that patterning. And some of the verse forms as well, quite complicated.
Yes, for following Spanish tragedy, almost certainly. So that would make sense. Yes. So anyway, I think I've gone around the room. Just to close on the thing Emma just brought up the rule of three here. It's not the only three. We have 3 sets of 3. There's another 4 sets of 3 to come. So that's something to look forward to. More 3s. More sets of 3s. So you don't need to think of them individually. Just think of them as a set. Collector's edition. Odds on you'll miss one of them and you won't have it in your collection. It'll be really expensive on eBay, and it'll just be terrible. Okay, well that's the first third or so of the Three Lords and Three Ladies of London. We'll be returning to this text next time, where we will get deeper into it and find out more of where we go with this. All that remains is to thank all the readers for all their wonderful work this afternoon, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.